Well, you can be English or Dutch. But have you ever been curious about who was before you? Imagine that you are in the heart of ancient Ukraine. You see the rich lands in front of you, tilled by hands of a lot of people living in the settlements. They farm and keep cattle, but the main treasure is their knowledge of art. It was the heart of the Trypillian culture, one of the oldest and the most mysterious civilizations that existed in Ukraine. The Trypillians built settlements, always having lots of people. Their buildings were not just houses, but real examples of architecture. Houses made of reeds, covered with clay, and roofs covered with straw. In the center of the village stood big yards where people made balabi, fabric, and cooked food on fire. But it is their yards, cups, and other clay pottery. They didn't just make pottery, it was a kind of masterpiece, covering with clay with bright ornaments, waves, spirals, and possibly images of animals and plants. These patterns were not just decorative, they had a special meaning, tying them to the nature and spiritual things. The Trypillians were talented craftsmen. They also knew how to use stone, bone, and wood to create a tool for everyday life and cultivation. One of the greatest things Trypillians achieved was their skill in agriculture. They mastered innovative soil cultivation tool, planted a number of seeds, and created a unique soil rotation system to keep the land in top condition. Thanks to this, Trypillians became one of the first cultivating people. Lots of creators find inspiration in the art of ancient time. It is so hard to imagine, but the historians present life of Trypillians as the analog of the Golden Age. Warm climate and rich soil, no evidence of military conflicts, high technological development, and of course high female status, which is pretty important even now. It was a fairy tale close to ideal, but any kind of fairy tale comes to an end. The Trypillian people were taken over the Yamnaya people who came from the east. They were unable to fight back. Back then, there was no written language. The language was spoken, so we have no idea about the Trypillian language, maybe just a little bit. Trypillians were not Slavic, but the part of them culture is still with us today, the desire to cultivate the land. Respect nature and agricultural traditions, land cultivation skills, house building traditions, and of course the common sense of village life. Everything was coming from generation to generation. One of the elements of this culture was female gods who represented life and fertility, as well as the rituals related to the family and the land fertility. Similar fertility images and rituals focused on keeping in touch with nature continue in later Ukrainian traditions. For example, Ukrainian culture holds multiple rituals tied to the harvest and festivals, promoting land fertility. Respect for nature and seasonal cycles is reflected to the calendar of holidays and rituals, often related to natural events such as sowing, harvesting, and festivals to honor gods responsible for the harvest. A land of profound traditions, centuries-old culture, and history dating back to the Trypillian times. It is the land of the Cossacks fighting for freedom. Ukrainians are Slavic, but there were lots of fascinating people who lived before us, when even the name Ukraine didn't exist. Ukrainians began to study the Trypillian people better after the collapse of the Soviet Union. To be honest, not too long ago. Tadins.